Hello, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Pigskin and Burnt Ends college football talk. It is Texas-based college football talk. What a fun week here. Welcome into the show. Welcome into the program here on FanStream Sports. We are live from the FanStream Sports studio in North Dallas. And also, of course, supporting those boys in the College Gridiron Coast to Coast Network. Heard around the globe, wherever you get your podcasts. But welcome into a fun and exciting week of Texas college football. The Texas A&M Aggies were off, resting, getting ready for the Missouri Tigers this upcoming week. We had some very, very impressive shows by, well, we'll say an impressive showing by the Red Raiders once again as they continue to stay on track. The Texas Longhorns squeak one out. Are you happy about that, Longhorns fans? I don't know. It's been the story all season. And then you had those SMU Mustangs looking like the old early 80s Pony Express as they steal one. They're on the hilltop at Gerald J. Ford Stadium from the Miami Hurricanes in an ACC matchup, and that one was a fun one. We had some losers as well. We had Baylor. Well, Baylor was a winner over the UCF Knights, big winners over the UCF Knights, and, of course, the Houston Cougars inexplicably losing to those West Virginia Mountaineers, a program that's a little in shambles right now and not what we expected, especially at home from the Houston Cougars. But we need to remind everybody that this episode of Pigskin and Burnt Ends is sponsored in part by TicketSmarter. The 2025 college football season is certainly in full bore here, and we know you're still looking for the best seats at the most competitive prices. We want to make sure you take advantage of TicketSmarter and their mobile app. We know more than ever that buying college football tickets online requires trust. And TicketSmarter is partnered with more than 100 universities and 24 conferences as their official ticket resale marketplace. They've also partnered with ESPN Events as an official ticket resale partner as well. You can purchase your tickets quickly, securely, and at the best prices on the secondary market with the TicketSmarter mobile app or at TicketSmarter.com. We've got two great offers for you today, as we do every week. You can save $10 on your purchase of $100 or more using the code LWOS10. And if you spend more, you can still save more, because if you spent $300 or more and you use the promo code LWOS20, you'll save $20 off your purchase. These codes are not just a one-time offer. Use our codes over and over and over and over and over again to save for the best selection of seats to all of this year's biggest games. Don't wait. Get the best selection and pricing now with the TicketSmarter mobile app and at TicketSmarter.com. Remember to use our codes LWOS10, LWOS20. Think smarter. Think TicketSmarter. Thank you, TicketSmarter. But let's start with the big one. They're on the hilltop as the Mustangs, in overtime, stunned number 10 Miami as the students there stormed the field at Gerald J. Ford Stadium. SMU continues to shake up the ACC race, and they're doing it with flair with a 26-20 overtime grab there. It's their 13th straight home conference win behind a walk-off one-yard plunge from T.J. Harden and a defense that delivered when they needed it most. Ahmad Moses set the table with his second interception of the night, jumping Carson Beck just shy of the goal line on Miami's first overtime snap. 4 straight Harden runs later, SMU lit the fuse, untouched left edge, ball game, and bedlam. It was a cathartic response just 1 week after a last play heartbreak loss at Wake Forest. The Mustangs regathered, rebound, and they grinded. SMU had negative rushing yards entering overtime. The 25 yards on the winning drive pushed the total to 23. All heart, all situational football. The finish was pure Dallas theater. SMU students poured over the wall behind the Miami bench, toppled the goalposts in the end zone where Harden scored. The base wouldn't budge, but the uprights did, including one, the one that was involved in that fourth quarter controversy with Sam Keltner's would-be tying 42-yarder was ruled no good as it sailed over the upright. That is not reviewable. And Rhett Lashley kind of laughed it off in the postgame. He said, hope there's one in Deep Ellum and one in downtown Dallas, talking about those uprights. Keltner got redemption, though, with a calm 38-yarder equalizer at 25 seconds, a kick made possible by a critical unnecessary roughness flag on Marquise Lightfoot after a timeout, gifting SMU a first down on 4th and 9. Kevin Jennings authored a gutty night, throwing a touchdown, running for another, returning after an apparent lower leg left injury to steer the late drives. Miami also had its chances. Beck threw for 274 yards. He tossed scores to Josisa Trader and Alex Bauman, but threw 2 picks, both to Moses, and the Canes blinked at the end of regulation. With 25 seconds and a timeout after a touchback, Mario Cristobal chose to kneel, and Beck felt the sting there, and because from there it was all SMU. They finished Harton's overtime hammer punctuated a night that kept the Mustangs squarely in the conference mix. They're at 6-3, 4-1 in the ACC. Even after last week's stumble stacked their long ACC streak, Jennings' toughness, Moses' takeaways, Keltner's clutch swing, and one delirious field storm turned a top 10 upset into a love letter to resilience. The Miami Hurricanes will try to regroup. They will face Syracuse on Saturday. Should be an easy win. Nothing against you, Syracuse Orange. Of course, SMU heads north to Boston College on Saturday as well. And this was at least in my opinion, this was a program. I don't want to say defining, but if you want to talk SMU football over the last, 30 years, certainly a statement game, right, for those boys, for Kevin Jennings, for Rhett Lashley. And yes, I was supposed to be there, and I missed the game. One of those things like, man, I could have been there. I should have been there. I wasn't. Maybe I'll just lie to everybody and tell everybody I was there. No, of course we're not going to do that. But, one for the ages, one for the program. And again, Miami will have to regroup now and try to get caught back up in the college football playoff talk. Another program that impressed this week and more so maybe than I thought it would was the Red Raiders as they roll into Manhattan, empower themselves to a 43-20 statement win over K-State. It was a turnover tsunami as Texas Tech snapped an 8-game skid to Kansas State, bagged its first win in Manhattan since 2008, thumping the Wildcats behind a takeaway frenzy and a healthy QB1 and a bruising ground game at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. Baron Morton returned from injury to throw for 249 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jacoby Williams ripped 135 yards and another score. The Red Raiders now moved to 8-1, 5-1 in the Big 12. They forced 5 turnovers to overwhelm what was that day a very mistake-prone K-State, who falls to 4-5, 3-3 in the conference. Head coach Joey McGuire after the game talked about what a huge win it was, and he's not wrong. Interestingly, he arrived, if you haven't seen it, Joey McGuire arrived at the post-game press conference stand, the podium, wearing a T-shirt that featured current Texas Tech athletic director Kirby Hocutt when he played for Kansas State, when he played linebacker at K-State. McGuire commented on it. He said, it's no disrespect to K-State. It's a tip of the hat to my AD who played linebacker here. It's been a long time since we beat K-State. Yada, yada, yada. As a matter of fact, it's the first time, as we mentioned, since 2008, since the Red Raiders have rolled into Manhattan and gotten a win. It was a sloppy game for both sides. Morton threw an early pick. Avery Johnson answered with one of his own. Tech finally settled in. They were able to take advantage of some K-State mistakes. And, watching this game, this is almost one of the infuriating aspects of Texas Tech football. And you don't like to see it. But it's the slow starts. And it's happened the last couple of weeks with Hammond under center. And, of course, he's out for the year. Morton comes back, and you wanted to see a quick start. You didn't want to see Texas Tech go down early. They go down 7-0. They come back and get things together in the second quarter thanks to some K-State mistakes. But you don't like the sloppy, slow starts. A Jace Brown fumble set up a touchdown for a 9-7 lead. A late 3-and-out became a booming 55-yard field goal. Then on the fourth play of the second half, Garrett Oakley fumbled. That turned into a Williams 41-yard house call and silenced the crowd at 19-7. But Baron Morton's steady hand kept the pressure on with a dart to Caleb Douglas, and then a field goal drive from Stone Harrington stretched the lead to 29-14 entering the fourth. K-State tried to claw back, but the Texas Tech defense slammed the door. A 2-point try was stuffed, a fourth down stop near midfield, and a brief offensive miscue later made another fourth down stonewall with under 6 minutes left for Tech. John Curry put the exclamation point on it, scooping Johnson's late fumble and sprinting in for the dagger with just under 5 minutes left. Johnson totaled 199 yards passing with a touchdown and 86 rushing yards with 2 scores. But those 2 interceptions and the late fumble headlined a brutal night of miscues for the Wildcats. They finished 0 for 4 on fourth down, and literally key drops across a bunch of drives did them in as well. Just a ton of errors, unforced errors for K-State. Not what you want to see from those boys if you're a K-State fan, but give full credit to the Texas Tech defense and the Texas Tech offense for being able to take advantage of those. So the win pushes Tech into its best Big 12 start since 2008. The Mike Leach Cotton Bowl season showcases a defense that flips fields, and it's a balanced offense that travels well, we can now see. Glad to have Baron Morton back. Cameron Dickey added a touchdown run to the party. And, again, I think the return of Morton kind of lifted everybody up a little bit on the offense. Nothing against Will Hammond, but when you got your starter back, Morton's kind of the heart of this thing. We all know that. And now Tech will get ready to face number 10 BYU and maybe their biggest test of the year. On Saturday, K-State is off for a week before they head to Oklahoma State on November 15th, looking for a rebound game. You hate to have that week off after loss because it really just sort of sits there in your crawl and doesn't make you feel too good. And you know what? The coaching staff makes sure that the boys remember those losses too, and you've got a week off for sure. So let's talk some Longhorns, kind of hook 'em horn, I guess. Maybe a little bit, as the Longhorns escape Vanderbilt after blowing a 24-point lead. Should anybody be celebrating here? I don't know. I don't think so. If you are, I'd love to hear why and how you think this was a good win. Look, I know a win is a win is a win. Any given Saturday, blah, 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 blah. I get it. But you can't sit there as a Longhorns fan and tell me that you still feel good about this thing. If you just watched the first 45 minutes of this game, you'd probably think the Longhorns had finally turned a corner. They're back. Arch is back. The Longhorns are back. But that was not the case. Up 34-10 in the fourth quarter, they were cruising behind a freshly cleared Arch Manning until, well, they weren't. A desperate Commodores rally, Diego Pavia's TD run, a 67-yard strike to Eli Stowers, and a final touchdown to Richie Hoskins with 33 seconds left turned a laugher into a near collapse that required the onside kick to trickle out of bounds for the Longhorns to survive. And boys and girls, if you didn't see that onside kick, it was so close. It was within 6 inches of a Vanderbilt player collecting that thing. Now, I know they would have still had to go score, but the onside kick was the first step in that, and, man, they were so close. Steve Sarkisian, after the game, called it a great win. And my question to Coach Sark would be, really? I guess. I mean, it is a win. I won't argue that. But is it a great win? I mean, I get it. Vandy was, number 9 in the country at the time, and, well, the Longhorns weren't. So it's a win, all right, but I still don't know how Longhorns fans can feel good about where this thing is as we get closer and closer to the real goal for everybody here in the college football playoff. And, Manning struggled a little bit in this game, as he's done all year. His return from concussion protocol looked like a Hollywood rehab reel. He went 25 of 33 for 328 yards and 3 touchdowns, including a 75-yard catch and run to Ryan Wingo on the game's first snap. He added scoring throws to C.J. Baxter and Emmett Mosley. He popped up after a hard shot in the third and for once was able to enjoy clean pockets. Sark said it was the best protection he's gotten all year, and it certainly looked like it. Wisner turned 18 carries for 75 yards and a score. Wingo needed only 2 grabs to post 89 yards. So why the side eye to the Longhorns here? Well, because a top 10 road scalp shouldn't require a near choke. Texas defense bullied Pavia for 3 quarters, 6 sacks, bottled up scrambles, and then promptly let him stack a career-high 365 passing yards and 408 total by the buzzer. Vandy missed a 48-yard field goal in the third quarter, and they were that and a few inches on an onside kick away from erasing a 24-point fourth-quarter deficit, which sounds familiar because this program's margin for error keeps shrinking the moment the game pressure hits. Texas took the bump up in the rankings. That's fine. You have the whole cliche that November matters, blah, blah, blah. I get it. Since they fell out of the polls, they've won 4 straight. It's a win over a top 10 opponent. It'll keep the college football playoff dream on life support for now. But the film's not nice. The film is not kind. Soft zones late, leaky tackling, a defense that went inexplicably from suffocating to scrambling in just minutes. Manning looked to the part. Complimentary football did not. Sark said he'll have something to rip their butts about. And he won't have to look too far. There's plenty there. Style points are gone. Georgia awaits on November 15th. If the Longhorns are going to be real and they want to be taken seriously and they want everybody to say that they're back, that's the game. It'll be Georgia on November 15th. If they bring the last 5 minutes version of this team to Georgia, look out. This thing's going to get ugly. Look, and I'm not a Georgia lover. I don't think Georgia's all that either. But they're better than Texas. Vanderbilt falls to 7-2, 3-2 in the SEC. They will host Auburn on November 8th. And we'll wonder how different this looks if the onside kick stayed in bounds. At least I am. Texas improves to 7-2, 4-1 in the SEC. Call it resilience. Call it whatever you want. I'm a little bit of a Texas cynic right now, and I'm calling it a warning for you Longhorns out there. I don't know what else to tell you. The Aggies, of course, were off as they prepare, the 8-0 Aggies, by the way, prepare for number 19 Missouri coming up this weekend. It's a 2:30 kick on ABC. If you are like me and you don't have ABC anymore or ESPN because you have YouTube TV like me, well, then I'll join you at the bar up the street to watch some Aggies and Tigers on Saturday. More on A&M next week probably. And we'll have a little bit of the recruiting news too for all of the programs. So we're going to get into some recruiting talk coming up here shortly on the show. But let's give some kudos and maybe a sick 'em to those Baylor Bears. Sawyer Robertson throws for 3 touchdowns. Caden Knighton rushes for 104 yards, and Baylor beat UCF 30-3. And I didn't see this coming. I thought these two programs were pretty evenly matched. And just the pure domination by the Baylor defense on the Knights, I did not see this coming at all. And what a shocker. Look, and I expected the offense to be good. I expected Robertson to throw for 3 touchdowns. I expected Knighton to rush for 104 yards. I did not expect Baylor to get back in the win column with a 30-3 victory over the Knights on Saturday. Baylor improves to 5-4, 3-3 in the Big 12. They scored points on 4 of their first 5 drives, including a pair of touchdown passes from Robertson to former USC and Ole Miss tight end Michael Trigg and wide receiver Josh Cameron. The Bears built a 23 lead at the half. Connor Hawkins drilled his 3rd field goal late in the 3rd quarter to put them up 20. Hawkins made kicks from 41, 40, and 28 as he continues an impressive campaign this year. Robertson completed 29 of 40 passes for 267 yards, but coughed up his first fumble of the season on a strip sack late in the first half. He has 2,780 yards and 26 touchdown passes overall. Both marks ranked near the top of the FBS. UCF scored its only points as time expired in the first half. They fall to 4-4, 1-4 in the Big 12. They were set up with a short field goal after Robertson's fumble. Noe Rulis drilled that 45-yard field goal. The Knights' other drives ended in 4 punts, 3 turnovers on downs, and a missed field goal, along with 2 interceptions, one of which was set up by Baylor's only touchdown of the second half. Taven Jackson was 18-23 for 151 yards with 2 picks. For UCF, Dwayne Thomas Jr. rushed 8 times for 77 yards. It was the first time since November 26th, 2015 that UCF did not score a touchdown, snapping a 121-game streak. That, said Scott Frost, was the most frustrating part of the offensive performance that he saw. The takeaway here, look, Baylor, Coach Aranda and the Bears secured a much-needed win following a 2-game skid. Baylor's now 1 win away from bowl eligibility. Aranda improves to 36-34 in his 6th season leading the program for the Knights. A week after they overwhelmed West Virginia with 45 points, they struggled to muster any offense against a Baylor defense that's given up over 430 yards per game in conference play. UCF finished with just 225 yards of offense, despite averaging 442 in league play. Entering Saturday, the Knights must win 2 of their final 4 games to secure bowl eligibility. And now, our disappointment of the week, at least for me. I expect a little bit more from those Houston Cougars, especially at home, right? Against a program that has struggled. They fired their coach. West Virginia improves to 3-6. It was their first Big 12 win of the year. Houston falls to 7-2, 4-2 in Big 12 play, as West Virginia 10 better than Houston, 45-35. Scotty Fox Jr. accounts for 3 touchdowns. In the process, he threw for 157 yards and accounted for 3 touchdowns as West Virginia snaps its 5-game losing streak. Over Houston, Fox was 13-22 and threw a touchdown pass to 24 yards to Cam Vaughn. He also rushed for 65 yards and a touchdown run had 2 touchdown runs, one of 6, one of 34 yards. Dior Hubbard rushed for 108 yards and a touchdown. Bowers added 65 yards rushing and a touchdown as the Mountaineers outrushed Houston 246-82. Good God. West Virginia also forced 4 Houston turnovers, converted those into 17 points. That was your difference in the game right there, boys and girls. Houston had committed just 4 turnovers combined in the first 8 games this season, including 3 in the team's other loss against Tech. Connor Wigman was 25-35 for 309 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions for Houston. He also rushed for a touchdown and lost 1 of his 3 fumbles. Dean Connors rushed for 71 yards. Amari Thomas caught 10 passes for 99 yards and 3 scores. This game was tied 21 at the half, and I already didn't feel good about it. This game should not have been this close. West Virginia then outscored Houston 24-7 to start the second half. Took the lead on a field goal. Scruggs put the Mountaineers up by 10 with an 80-yard interception return for a touchdown with 6.5 minutes left in the third. The Cougars cut the lead to 3 on an 8-yard touchdown pass from Wigman to Thomas. Fox rushed for his 34-yard score. Hubbard rushed for an 11-yard touchdown midway through the fourth to put West Virginia up by 17. But it was not to be for the Cougars. The Mountaineers staved off bowl elimination and beat a ranked team for the first time since a 38-31 win over Iowa State back in 2021. Houston's chances of reaching the Big 12 championship took a big hit with the loss. And we will kind of see how – look, they're just 2 losses, all right? But you've got better teams in the conference, of course, with Texas Tech, BYU. Houston was right up there with them. This loss is going to sting. West Virginia hosts Colorado this Saturday. Houston travels to see those Knights in Central Florida in a Friday matchup. How do y'all feel about these Friday college games? I'm not so sure, actually, how I feel, especially with these bigger programs. I don't like the Friday. If it's the smaller programs, I don't have a problem with it because I don't mind watching TV on Friday, watching some college football on Fridays. But I do not like the I don't like the Friday night big program. I've got better things to do on Friday night than watch college football, you guys. I don't know about y'all, but that's where I'm at on it. I tell you what, I've got a ton of recruiting stuff with some recruiting rankings nationally, where the Texas teams fall into those. I'll tell you what, I will do a special episode of the show, and we will talk recruiting. I don't want to combine that with this. I was going to, but I don't want to now. I changed my mind. I'm allowed to do that. But so that means we will wrap this up for you, boys and girls, right here on Pigskin and Burnt Ends. Coming at you from the FanStream Sports Studios here in North Dallas for College Gridiron Coast to Coast and FanStream Sports. And, of course, for TicketSmarter. Don't forget our codes, LWOS10, LWOS20. The more you spend, the more you save. TicketSmarter.com and the TicketSmarter app. We'll do it all again, probably in a couple of days with that recruiting show for you, boys and girls. I'm IndyCarTim. Until next time, we'll see you.